Live pictures of Eagle Pass, Texas, where the thousands upon thousands of people come across every day. And while we've reported on the record number of illegal crossings for years and the crisis at the border, MSNBC showed up at Eagle Pass today with a slightly different take.
By the way, this was like this on Monday. It was like this on Tuesday. It's still a large number of migrants because as they're being processed, more are coming in. You see them holding those aluminum mylar blankets to try to stay warm in the cold weather.
As you can see, the banner this morning read humanitarian crisis, as if Customs and Border Patrol is creating a humanitarian crisis by detaining people who choose to come to America illegally. Other networks are doing the same, as are politicians on both sides. This framing previews what is about to come from the Biden administration. Humanitarian crises require drastic action. Kamala Harris said that drastic action would not be securing the border.
It's very unfortunate, but it actually is more than just unfortunate. It will have real consequence for these folks to play these kinds of games with who we are as America in terms of our role of global leadership.
And let's be fair, there is a real problem. The number of illegal crossings keeps breaking records. 269,735 apprehensions recorded in September 2023. Highest month ever. 12,500 plus people encountered at the southern border yesterday. Highest single day on record. The immigration court backlog passed 3 million pending cases, up 1 million since 2022. 3 million, that's the population of Chicago, all here in America. One woman released into the United States today reportedly received a court date for 2031. Our Allie Bradley talked to people with court dates in 2029. They will all get to stay in America until then. The football stadium at Michigan holds roughly 100,000 people. It is called the Big House. You would need 30 big houses to hold all the illegal immigrants currently awaiting court hearings. Talk about a humanitarian disaster. MSNBC would set up shop in the 30 big houses. Humanitarian disasters require bold moves like amnesty or some grand plan with Republicans. Every person now who crosses over the Mexican border gives Mr. Biden more leverage with Republicans going into an election year. Chris Landau, ambassador to Mexico from 2019 to 2021, joins us. Good to see you, Mr. Ambassador. Thank you. What do you make of the exponential growth in the number of people coming across?
Well, Leland, it is so frustrating for me, given that our policies during the last administration really had reduced illegal border crossings to historically low levels. And this crisis that we're seeing now is a purely man-made crisis. There's not some hurricane that happened somewhere else that is driving this. This is happening as a result of our government's announced failure to apply our laws. That's
so
why.
Is this a policy or failure of a policy?
Oh, I think it's a policy. I mean, we have the laws on the books, and this government, the executive branch of this government, has said, we're not going to enforce the law, as if this was optional. I mean, it turns the Constitution on its head. The executive branch's job is to enforce the law, not pick and choose which laws it likes and doesn't like.
Play this out. Am I wrong to think that there's a plan here, or that at some point, even if it's just incompetence over conspiracy, the answer to this has to be, if you have 3 million immigration cases growing to 4 million, grows exponentially. At some point, it's like, well, we can't deal with all these, therefore we must just give everybody documents so they can work.
I think that's right, Leland. I mean, I think the problem is these are human beings. They might have children here. They start to form ties here. Then people say, well, it's very cruel to deport these people now that they have formed links in our communities. It is cruel to them. To be honest with you, it's unfair not only to the people who are already here and the people who are waiting in line according to the law, it's unfair to the people who live in the shadows. I mean, we have great laws in our country, but basically illegals don't get the benefit of those laws, right? I mean, they don't get the protections of OSHA and all that. They're working in the shadows.
Right, because if they say anything, they
right.
end up getting deported. The Mexican president responding to Greg Abbott, who passed a state law that state officials can effectively deport folks who come across illegally. You're not going to win anything, he warned Abbott. On the contrary, he will lose sympathy because in Texas there are many Mexicans, many migrants. He forgets that Texas was from Mexico, like 10 states in the American Union. He still seems a little bitter about that in the statement. But I'm wondering if we just sort of zoom out about how this continues to set records. It's compounding. The more people who get in and call back to the home country, whether it be Mexico or Colombia or Ukraine or anywhere else, and say, I made it, how many people does that represent who come? And the flip side is, if people start getting sent back and people realize that they can spend all this money but are going to get deported, how many people does that stop?
Listen, you are right to say that in our era of modern communications, there's probably no more effective tool for people to come than the phone and somebody saying yes, calling the cousins in Honduras. The one thing I would say that's really important for people not to lose sight of is that the migration problem at our southern border now is not primarily a Mexican problem. Mexicans are a minority of the people entering our southern border with Mexico at this point. You have people from over 180 countries, Guinea, Angola,
China,
Albania,
Venezuela,
China, not even
Russia.
to mention Yemen, Afghanistan. I mean, just wait until there will probably be a terrorist attack one day from these people who are totally unvetted and coming into our country.
Yeah.
And it makes me sad that Mexico is, trying to talk about these domestic issues. I mean, the Mexicans care a lot about their sovereignty. This is an issue about the United States domestic sovereignty. And
that's a good point. They're more than happy to tell us what to do. Mr. Ambassador, it was good to see you, sir.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.